All right, welcome. We are live and back for another episode of The Eventful Life, Living Out Loud. Those of you who have been joining us, we have been doing a series for the last couple of months about living out loud, where I bring you different women, or as I say, real women who are creating real change. And we are just getting real. We're having real conversations, real dialogue, things that a lot of times are unspoken or not touched on for just different reasons that women choose not to talk about it. But we're changing all of that and we are talking about it. We're putting it out there. So this week, I'm excited to, as we are kind of in this back to school haze, if you will, we're jumping into August. And so I thought it would be great to kind of dedicate the month of August to back to school, just different back to school aspects and things that are going on as it relates to mompreneurs having to figure out what is going to happen as they decide to send their kids back to school or at home, as well as just how they are deciding things for themselves as far as their own career, their work pace, their workflow, because as we all know, this pandemic has come in and shook up some things.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring those conversations to you guys in August. So hopefully we can talk about them, talk through them, and hopefully this will help you figure out some solutions in your own, in your own home, in your own environment. So today, guys, I have Krystal Henry, who is the owner of or founder of Around the Way Mom. And she is a mom blogger. She also does a lot of educating women and empowering women to really just what we're doing right now, which is be real, be their authentic selves. And so I'm so excited that she agreed to come and have this dialogue with me, because I know that Krystal can identify with a lot of the things that are going on right now as it relates to back to school days, girl.
Yeah, I'm in a whole daze right along with everybody else, right?
Right? I'm like, when is the days gonna end? That's the question.
We just don't know. We just don't know. It's never gonna end.
It feels like it's never ending. So let's jump in. Did you think back in March that this is where we would be? Like, when you brought your son home for the first time after, the lockdown situation happened, did you think fast forward to August, that this is where we would be?
No. So first off, the day that we found out was unfortunately his birthday. So on his 8th birthday, March the 12th, is when we found out. So that day, actually the next day, our school system had one of those professional development days. So the kids were not going to go to school that Friday the 13th. So we had a couple of his friends over and a couple family members over to celebrate something super small, his birthday. Yeah. And then we got the notice that day. And I remember being in a whole panic, like, oh my gosh, I'm outside looking at my son and a couple friends roasting marshmallows. And I'm thinking, how am I supposed to tell him, you're not going back to school tomorrow?
Right. Like, is this real?
Yeah. Monday, Tuesday, the next day, probably the next month, you're not going back to school. So I found myself in a whole panic, and then at that time, everybody was really freaking out about the grocery store. It felt like you were in some obstacle course, or some video game.
I think that's what I refer to it as. Like, I feel like I'm in an apocalypse where like everything's about to end.
Yeah. So it's like thinking about, him with school, what's supposed to happen Monday. We got to go to the grocery store. We got to think about stocking up for how long, get this, get that. I was in, that was a daze. You talk about a daze. I was in a whole daze for probably the month of March, the rest of the month of March. Like, when is this going to be over? And then the more we got into it, the more settled I've gotten.
Yeah.
But I mean, my first thought was honestly, oh, crap.
MG. Right. Yes.
Like,
no.
I
was the same way, Krystal. I was just like, I really don't believe that this is happening right now. Like, I can remember my husband calling me and saying, think, because he works in healthcare, I think
Yes.
that I think the boys are going to be coming home for good because of this coronavirus thing. And I was like, are you sure? Like, I was like, that's a bit drastic. Like, listen, I'm the eternal optimist. So I'm like, that's a bit drastic, don't you think? You know, and he's a realist. So he's like, no, seriously. And literally, my son, the same day, stepped off the bus. I remember it like it was yesterday. Stepped off the bus, had all his gear, like everything that was in his lockers, all his books, everything. And I was like, why do you have all of your stuff? And he's like, because they said we're not coming back. I was like, I mean, like you said, I was shook, you know?
Yeah.
So then it's like, so how did you kind of talk about, because you said, you know, as the time went on, and I like that you said that, because I felt, you know, a very similar way. And I think a lot of people did, where they kind of developed a rhythm of sorts. So but the question is, how did you get from point A, like, oh crap, to point B, where it's like, okay, we're starting to, you know, get into this rhythm?
Yeah, honestly, Janelle, sometimes I've been at point B, point C. I might have even gotten to point M and slid all the way back to A. It just given the day, honestly, because I'm working at the same time. My husband's down the hall working. We've got demanding jobs. I'm building this business. You know, son's got, you know, online virtual learning, trying to figure out the summer. So I slid up and down the alphabet, honestly, with how prepared I felt. So I would say, honestly, what has helped me, my own personal therapy has helped me a lot to be able to have my own outlet, to be able to really get out what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, process, just all of what's going on.
And you and I have had this conversation about therapy, right? So I want to, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I do want to pause you right there, because I feel like with moms in particular, and mompreneurs, like sometimes we don't think that therapy is a part of our self-care, or therapy is something that can help us kind of manage the things that are in front of us. Sometimes we think we need to figure it out ourselves and just make it work, make it happen, right? Like, hey, you getting thrown this stuff, you make it work, you make it happen. So, you know, I love that you said that. How did that help you find your own time? Like, how did you start to connect, like, you know, this is for me?
Well, I mean, I started going to therapy in 2010 after my dad passed, and then I stopped. Then I went back in 16, 17-ish. And so I went, you know, because I was having some different changes on my job, and that was really throwing me for a loop. And then I kept going because honestly, my therapist said, you know, kind of, what is it that you want to work on? Is it some big thing you want to work on? Or when you come, do you want to work on what is on your plate at the moment? And I said, I like what's on my plate at the moment. So for me, it's me really thinking about, this is my uninterrupted time to focus on me. Like it's, and she helps me to think through other options, you know, to think about another point of view, being able to look at it maybe from somebody else's perspective, and to really help me to just better process and even better verbalize what it is that I'm thinking and feeling. And then giving me some time and some space, obviously in between appointments, to put that stuff into work. And I think it's a huge part of my self-care, you know, in addition to, of course, connecting with my friends over the phone or sometimes through FaceTime, you know, prioritizing my own personal exercise. Or I just finished.
And you have to be intentional about those.
And discipline. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, I think sometimes we think about discipline as being so restrictive, and maybe discipline isn't the word, but being intentional, right? Intentional, discipline, routine, they all essentially mean the same thing. That if I say I'm going to do it, then I got to do it.
And I owe myself. I owe myself to do it. Like, aren't you important enough to do it? You know, aren't you worthy enough to do it? You know?
And having that time and being serious about that time in my schedule, and saying, you know, because I know when I don't do the certain things that I know are going to help me, then I feel off. And then it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to get it back in during the day. But instead of me squeezing it in, it's like, let me say from this time to this time, I'm going to do this. And that's not me fitting it in between all the rest of the 80 million other things I got to do.
Right. Exactly. And I feel the same way about my meditation in the morning. I'm like, that's my time. And I covet that time and value that time just as much as I do my time with my kids, my time with my husband, you know, the service I provide to my clients. So let's segue into what has been your biggest challenge. Like we talked about, you know, and I love the fact that you said, hey, sometimes I might be getting it right, but then other days I might find myself right back at, you know, square one, like, how did I get here? But you embrace it, right? But what has been the biggest challenge, you know, for you as, you know, you entered into that world of remote learning, having your kid home all day, every day? Because let's be clear, when this pandemic happened, we don't get no break.
Honey, 24/7. 24/7, 24/7, 24/7, 24/7, 24/7. And honestly, and my son wakes up probably between 7:30, anywhere between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. And then he'll go to bed. Now we have been stretching out bedtime, right? It's the summertime. So he might go to bed anywhere between 9 and 10.
Relax a little bit.
Yeah. But then you think really from 10 o'clock on to whenever I fall asleep, that's my only personal time without him. Or if I happen to wake up early, then I got to hurry up and get in a whole 90 minutes. I don't have a whole bunch of time to just be me. So many a day I've been in the living room getting my workout on. He's sitting right on the couch. Right. You know, and some days I've said, son, I just need a minute. You know, sometimes you just want to huff and puff and sweat by yourself. I don't want an audience. I don't want
Right, because you know there comes questions with them sitting there. What you doing? Why are you doing that?
And then making jokes like, "Oh, you're sweating. Oh, you're sweating." And I said, "Dude, you can go. This is." You know, but again, where else is he going to go?
Right.
He doesn't have that many options. And then, you know, kids do want to be close. They want to just, you know, proximity is important. Yeah. And then part of me feels a little bad. And then, okay, you can come back in and, you know, but then I started going to the basement and he doesn't really want to come down there. So I figured out how to
how to work around it.
So that's, it's been tough. It has been tough. So back to your question, the hardest part is for me balancing my own job and responsibilities with being present for him. So trying to be present in all these different areas can be really challenging because if I got to have my camera on, you know, Zooming for work and be live, you know, let's say it's starting at 9:30 in the morning and some days it could last till 12 or, you know, a longer day. And then he's unattended, you know, now, yes, my husband is here, but if he's on live on Zoom on a meeting, then both of us are tied up. Where does that leave my son?
Right.
And I don't have a solution for it.
Yeah.
I don't. Some days that's when I feel like I'm back at, you know, at step A.
At square one. Yes, I know. Because even, I mean, let's be honest, even with the best laid routine and schedule, you're going to have moments where you're like, what do I do? You know, because like you said, you're all under one roof and for long durations and periods of time. And sometimes schedules are just going to clash. You know, I found myself one time I was trying to work with a client, but then at the same time, my son he just finished up a summer program and not realizing that they didn't have a break in their schedule. He needed to be online too. So I'm trying to deal with the client and deal with him and keep a 3-year-old brother busy so that he don't disrupt everybody. And I'm like, okay.
That's a whole lot all at one time, right? And then to think about how employers, for those moms that are working, you know, for someone else, how these companies are being responsive. That's been a challenge as well.
Sometimes, I was about to say, talk about that a little bit, you know, you know, because I know during this pandemic, one of the things that I have said very, very profoundly is that this is a time in which people are going to remember how their employers showed empathy, you know, because this is a time that you need to extend grace to your employees. This is a time that you need to be empathetic to your employees. So, you know, for a mom who is not only running her own business, but also, you know, is still working in her 9 to 5, you know, how has that experience been with your employer?
So, you know,
I know it's hard. It's like
I got to tread lightly on this one. You know what I mean? I got to tread lightly. I will say that, so it's different for me. So I within a larger organization, I'm on a small team of 6 people, and I'm the only person that's married and the only person that is a parent. So that's different.
You're kind of like the minority in
some
ways.
I am very much the minority. And so it looks different and it feels different because my personal priorities are different.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that they're better, doesn't mean that they're worse. They are different. So that when I wake up in the morning, I am not only thinking about when I got to brush my teeth and put my clothes on and what am I going to grab to eat, but I'm thinking about what is my son going to eat for breakfast, or making sure that my husband is straight in the morning. Am I going to, do a quick breakfast and make sure that both of them have something to eat? And somebody might say, well, he's a grown man, he doesn't have to do that. But again, these are some of the dynamics that we have in our households. So everybody's household looks differently.
It's different, sure.
Yeah, so I will say that it has been a personal challenge for me, some days more than others, to balance the demands of my full-time job with my other full-time jobs. That has it's been challenging.
They are full-time jobs.
Yeah, because we're home, and I know that the pandemic has been hard on everyone. I think for working parents, it's been especially hard because cleaning happens in the same space, and cooking happens, and fun happens, and exercise happens, and leisure happens, and work happens, and schooling happens.
Yeah, it's like bringing everything that you may be used to outsource. It's like bringing everything inward.
Yeah. And there's no place to go. There's no place to go. There's no place to go. No. And so what I have started to do is to personally say that I'm going to have a hard stop to my work day so that I can turn off work and then be able to turn on family. And that doesn't mean, of course, that I'm not taking breaks throughout the day and still being present, or, he's sitting in the same space as me, and like my desk is behind me and the couch is in front of me. So again, it's not like we're not physically together, but I can't always be present. I can't, and that's hard. And honestly, there are days when I feel really guilty about it. It's days when, and that's when I slid back to step one. And then there's other days where it works really well, and where I'm moving along and I'm like, I'm at step 5 and I feel good. So that's what I mean by it can slide all over the place. And what I started to do is to just say, Krystal, listen, that's what I got a plan to be flexible. It's not always going to look the same. So instead of me trying to hold myself hostage to this, let it go. And if it didn't go well this moment, then by 6 o'clock, try not to hold on to that. Move on. If it didn't work well at 2, don't hold on to it at 6.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want it to spoil my day.
Because then you carry it into everything else that's going to happen for the rest of the day. And, to talk about just some of the, and you mentioned some of the tips and things that are working for you, like, being flexible, I use the words a lot about extending grace, because I have to extend grace not only to myself, but I also have to extend grace to my children. I can't, when I get in that headspace where I'm like, I have to reel it back in and say, whoa, you can't lash out because they're struggling with this in ways that just like you.
And just like you said, in ways that we don't even know.
That we don't even know.
We haven't been kids in a pandemic.
Exactly. I'll share with you, my son, when he was doing his summer program, it was the last day of their summer program, and the teacher asked, she said, I know that we're starting fall doing virtual, online learning. She said, but let's imagine in 2021, we're coming back to school. She was like, what's the number one thing that you miss the most, or what's the first thing that you're going to do? And, my son said in that moment, he said, I miss my friends. He was like, and the first thing I want to do is give them all a hug. And I was like, oh man, like, okay, that's when you realize this is not just affecting you. Like, your kids are affected by it too. And although they don't express it the same way that you do, you really have to be mindful, before you kind of unleash the dragon, right? So I call it the dragon.
You're right. It's a dragon. And I've unleashed her several times too.
like, girl, bring the dragon back in, you know.
Yeah, but you're right about the social aspect, because you know, there have been several tearful moments when he's literally said, I'm lonely, and I've got a single child. So you know, that it's a you know, it's a little bit different. I wasn't a single child. I had a sister, and so I have a sister rather. So it's different, but the social impact is tough, because it's hard on me. I just texted a girlfriend of mine and said, listen, I need friend time.
Right.
So we're going to get together and be socially distant today. I said, listen, and she lives around the corner, but I haven't physically seen her since July at some point. I said, I need to have time without either one of our kids. Thank you. Where I can just drink some wine. I can talk loud. I can laugh loud. I don't have to, you know, code what I'm saying.
Right.
I need that. And kids need it too.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So it's thinking about how we can fit that stuff in for ourselves, you know.
And get creative, you know, get creative. And that's the one thing I think that this pandemic has forced me and a lot of people to do, is to really reimagine how you do things. You know, I know, you know, I started doing like this, what I coined summer camp at home with my kids, because I was like, I gotta get us out safely out into the world, but give us some time to just breathe and you know, get some of this energy out, get some of this weight off, and just be able to exist out into the world and not make it a scary place just because we know that COVID is out here, you know. And that was something I really had to push myself, because I had kind of gotten to this, well, we just figure it out around the house, and you know, this is what we normally do. So since we can't do that, I guess we just gonna be here, you know. And I had to push myself, you know. And I think a lot of us are having to push ourselves to think about things differently, and how we can still make joy and the positive things that we need happen.
Yes, I would agree, because you know, and even interactions like this, like, no, we're not together physically, and you know, we're not just talking about the doom and the gloom of it, but you know, being able to talk about, you know, this is what I'm doing, and as I see what you're doing online, I'm like, you know what, my work projects will be lightening up after tomorrow. So I'm like, you know what? I got to hit up some of these places with him before school starts. And that will allow me, you know what I mean, to be able to do that. But you're right in trying to find joy and trying to find happiness. We started having a joy jar at home. And so once a day, you know, writing down something, this made me laugh, this made me happy. And so we're filling it up. And we did get a little lax, you know, the last 2 weeks of July.
I mean,
but you know, listen, it still is one of those, and it is constantly on our island in our kitchen. Pieces of paper
visible.
Are there. It's visible. So I will wipe around it, wipe up under it. But I'm like, this is a reminder that even in the midst of chaos, even in the midst of uncertainty, it is still good things happening. And it's important to think about what those good things are. Even if it was, I laughed really hard on the phone with my friend today, or I watched a movie, or we went and had ice cream or something, or the ice cream was really good at this new place that we went to. The small things, you know, not taking granted the small things.
Yes. And making us go back to appreciating the small things. Because you know, let's be honest, we all have gotten off target and off path sometimes about what are the things that are really important, because we get bogged down with worrying about other things that haven't even happened yet, or how we gonna handle this, you know. So let's talk about, you know, coming into the summertime, we started seeing this shift in, you know, especially from the administration, you know, in our country, we started seeing this shift of talking about how we were going to possibly re-enter schools in the fall. Then it's like there was this shift to, hey, we don't know if we're going to re-enter schools in the fall, because we saw that numbers were going up with coronavirus, and other states were starting to move backwards because they couldn't, you know, they saw that their numbers were increasing. And then there started this dialogue of, hey, we may have to make kids go back to school, but then some kids may be able to do this remote learning or this kind of split alternative where they're sometimes some days coming into school and some days staying at home.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I'm Krystal, I don't know about you, but I felt like I was in a time machine. Like I felt like I was in this like warp zone.
Yeah.
I'm like, where am I? Why don't we know what we're doing? Like August is approaching. Kids are getting ready to, this is like officially back to school time frame. And we're no closer to understanding or figuring out what we're doing with our kids than we were back in June when they came out of school.
Yeah. It's been tough. And I remember talking to a friend of mine in probably June, and I said, listen, if schools can open back up in person, if it's an A day, B day, something, I said, he will be there. He is going, right? And he wanted to go. And then then we hit July, and then I'm starting to see the numbers, and I'm like, I don't really know about that. And then we hit August. And, so for our school system, they have decided to begin the school year virtually. And so I am a part, I work with the school. My husband is a principal. So we will still all be virtual.
Okay.
And, they're talking about revisiting it in October and then deciding. My thought is that it's going to be through the calendar year. So 2021, maybe doing some kind of split something.
Right. Like half online, half. Half in person.
So again, we'll have to look at it when that time comes and just really making a decision. And then there may be some options for some parents who are not entirely comfortable with any in-person option, which I think school systems have to allow for. But the one thing I'm clear on is homeschooling is not my ministry, honey. Like, I can't.
You know your lane and you know your strengths.
No, the Lord has gifted me with a lot of talents. That's not one of them, right? And again, I don't think my child will want me to be gifted in that area. You know what I'm saying? And again, so my husband and I had this conversation about, some people may be feeling that homeschooling is a viable alternative just because, like now. And so I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but he likened it to, someone thinking that they're a plumber because they've watched YouTube videos, or someone believing that they are now, a professor of I don't know, African-American history because they have watched documentaries.
Right.
People go to school to learn how to be teachers. They understand all of the dynamics. And I said, you're absolutely right. And not only is
that's a good analogy.
It's not my gift, but I want to be able to have my son learn from someone who is trained in all of the facets of education and how to teach somebody in going to the third grade, So I will be able to support his virtual learning. And we do a lot of supplementing at home, and that's fine. But in terms of being responsible for his primary learning, that ain't me, because I also work. And that's a full-time job.
Yes, it is. And we're doing the same. Montgomery County has decided to do virtual learning at least through November, and then they'll reassess and decide at that point. But I like you, I can remember like in June, I was like, oh yeah, no, they're definitely going back to school, because I can't, like, I'm like you, I'm not gifted in that, not in that way. My mother is a school teacher, and I tell her, bless you every day for your skill set, your talent. And I do believe that teachers have been undervalued for a very long time. As opposed to other countries who value them in the highest regard. Up there with doctors. And we need to change that as a country, because it's insane, but I know that I am not that person. And I know there's a level of educating that goes into mothering anyway, right? But I want that to be the level of education that I give my kids is in that way, not in a full-time, teacher / full-time mom way. So I I understand you. I hear you loud and clear, girl. And I also my heart goes out to parents who do not have that alternative, right?
Very true. Very true.
Have that choice. I think that's the part that I really struggle with the most, is that I am blessed to be able to at least work in the confines of running my business and monitor my kids and managing, their virtual learning during this time. But what about parents who can't, you know, and don't have jobs that even allow them to pursue that as an option, you know?
I was having this conversation too, and I feel for them, and unfortunately I don't have an option. You know, my hope is that they would have, if they could have, be able to rely on some of the supports in their circle, if it is close friends, if it is family that they trust, whatever their village looks like, being able to rely on that, because not everybody has that option. So my heart definitely goes out to those moms and those working parents who don't have that option.
Yeah. So as we're moving into, this fall learning, fall virtual learning, or if it's back to school, what are some things that, you would maybe advise or recommend? I know we've decided to look into like what they call learning pods, kind of supplement, and it's actually going back to what we just talked about, the village, right? It's actually kind of based in that premise of, get a couple of families together who kind of are on the same page, have kids that are around the same age, and you can kind of lighten the load by sharing it, sharing that load socially and academically, right? But what are some other things that you would recommend moms do to kind of lighten the load? Because I know going into August, there's a lot of anxiety around the fact that moms are like, okay, I'm about to have to do this, like, for real.
Yeah, I mean, my very first thought is to as much as possible stay informed about what your local school system is going to do. So again, I haven't been watching as much news lately, and so, or checking your email, staying up to date, because there are, if an announcement comes out or a decision is made and you don't know, then you don't know. So information is power. So that's the number one thing. And then the second thing will be, if your local school system has options to for technological support. So for instance, if they are letting students borrow laptops or hotspots, take advantage of that. So with our local school system, we didn't need a laptop, but we went and we went through the loan process to get a hotspot, because again, if we're all on the internet at the same time, like, let's try to front load that. But we got that in July. So again, if I wasn't checking my email, if I wasn't staying informed, I wouldn't have known.
Right.
And so, like, thinking about what resources that you can take advantage of to help your household through your local school system. And they all look very different. Then the next thing would be, just like you said, really to enlist the help and to enlist the support. And I am now thinking about what that's going to look like for my son as well. Like, if it is going to be some sort of, like co-learning, maybe with another family, like, just to be able to give some of the social piece back into him and to help with that. And then the other thing for working moms is, like, listen, have a hard stop if you can. Have a hard stop if you can to your work day, because again, what I'm seeing is that the virtual learning for schools is going to be way more robust, right? It's going to be way more organized, because now people have had time to plan. So if the school system has time to plan, we got time to plan too. So let's not get caught with our pants down and act like, oh, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Yeah, girl, you gotta know. I gotta get my head out the sand. And check the email. I gotta look through the website. I even have, asked a girlfriend of mine, we have kids in the same school system, or I've let her know, hey, did you see this town hall? Did you hear this or hear that? So, asking questions and trying to get that information so that you can plan. Because if you don't have a plan, then come September the 8th, your pants are going to be down and you're going to be looking like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
And that only goes so far.
Been there before.
Yeah. And honestly, that only goes so far. So let's not do it. Let's not do it to ourselves. And that's where part of that discipline comes in. And like, part of me that says, look, I can be, as blonde as I want to be sometimes, but let me act like I really know what I'm doing here. And let me actually pay attention and be prepared. Like, preparation and planning is key.
As much as possible, because like you said,
as much as possible.
You got to insert that flexibility. Everything's not going to happen always according to plan, but that doesn't mean you don't have the plan it means that you learn how to, shift and adjust when the plan can't meet exactly as you laid it out. But I love that, definitely the having a plan, leaning on others as you work your way through things. I know, mom friends and other professional mompreneurs like yourself, I've definitely, followed you and others, just which is a help to me, because I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking it, I know there got to be other, other mompreneurs out there thinking it, going through it, trying to figure it out. And, 4 heads are better than one, so I appreciate you, you saying that. And the only other thing I'll throw in too, Krystal, is, again, like we talked about earlier, carve out time for you. You know that going into like you said, September 8th, when fall school kicks off and we're all in back to school mode, it's going to be intense. Like it is, because things are back on your plate. Summertime is a little bit more relaxed, just like we talked about with bedtimes, with going outside, with not doing as much structural work. But come September, it's like game on, so go ahead and carve out that me time. I'm like, child, at the end of the day, where my wine, let me relax. You know what I'm saying?
And watch my TV by myself. The shows that have cussing in them.
Real quick, that's my guilty pleasure, and I'm not gonna feel guilty. Okay.
Right. I would agree. And the other thing is, for moms to think about what your own support system looks like, for yourself. If you can have one, if it's, one friend that you can call, if it's a family member that you're close with, somebody that you can have, unadulterated, raw conversation.
Non-judgmental.
Yes, to just say, sometimes I'll even say to my friend, listen, I know you won't judge me, so here is this, or here is that. Like, this is what I'm dealing with, because, and honestly, another thing I thought about was being able to allow yourself to make additions to whatever plan you come up with, and make subtractions. Whatever you come up with, don't feel like it has to be strict and
set in stone.
For the rest of however long we're going to be virtually learning. But if something needs to come out, if something needs to be tweaked, just allowing yourself some time to think about, okay, that didn't work well, let me try it this way, or let me throw this in, or maybe I don't want to do this. So part of that flexibility really looks like that. And making it right for your household, because what's going to work for your household may not work for mine,
for the next. That's right.
I got to focus on 415
right
on this household.
That's
and what you do is fine, and I can pull ideas, but I'm not trying to mirror what it is
to mimic exactly what I see. That's good. Oh, I cannot believe it is already like 1:45. This is crazy. I told you it goes by so fast, but it's good. This has been great conversation, and I love the things that you touched on as far as the nuggets that you shared, creating space for yourself, making sure that you're extending grace, or making sure that you give yourself a pass when you need it, and then creating a plan. I think that's very powerful, because right now I think the thing that is really saving a lot of us is that we are developing our own routines for what we need, what our household needs, and how we need it and when we need it. There is no this is one shoe fits all. There is no this is how you do it, period, point blank, stop. No, it is whatever is needed for you and your family to to survive and thrive, not just survive but thrive. Because we this really is the unknown. I feel like I could belt out Frozen right now into the unknown. But
and this is gonna and this has forever changed. This has forever changed us. It's changed everything that we know, and it doesn't mean that that it's all bad. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it was sudden. Yes, it was unknown. Yes, it was, it's been catastrophic in some ways. However, it doesn't mean that what happens moving forward has to be bad, or it has to be wrong, or
Absolutely not.
all those things. So it is, changing our perspective a little bit and saying, okay, while we are in this phase, everybody collectively, we're going to make this work and try to think about it as positively as we possibly can.
Yeah. And look at the, like you said, focus on the positives too, because there definitely are positives, so silver linings, as I call them, that are happening in the midst of the clouds and the storms. So
and again, if you slide on down to, if you make it up to M, you're like, yes, I'm on M, I'm moving my way, and then by 5 o'clock you done slid back to A. It's okay.
Right.
We're all sliding.
It's a sliding scale. And then what they say in school, this test is being graded on a sliding scale. So everybody is going to win.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Janelle. Yes, this is a sliding scale experience that we're having.
Well, listen, girl, thank you so much. This was absolutely wonderful. I always enjoy our discussions and our dialogue. Can you share with everybody, where they can find you, how they can stay connected with you, and if you have anything, that you want to share with the audience about your business, your product, services, then please do.
Sure. So I am active on Instagram and on Facebook. So on Instagram, I am at Round the Way Mom. Somebody else had around. So I'm Round the Way Mom on Instagram. And then on Facebook, I am Around the Way Mom. And then the newest baby to the Around the Way Mom family is Mom Chat. So I, wanted to get a visual discussion happening between moms. So the first one was Moms in Friendship, which launched last week. This past Tuesday was Moms in Marriage, and then tomorrow is Moms in Business. So a really good conversation between 3 moms who are in Baltimore, who are real big movers and shakers in their respective fields. And so we had really good conversation about the business side of it and, just how we can remember that. So and of course, the blog is at www.aroundthewaymom.com. And that is how you can find me and stay connected.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have gotten a lot out of this conversation today. And I hope you'll also stay connected with Krystal. I love her work. It's very authentic. And, she's out here doing good work, especially as it relates to moms and really cultivating that community and that empowerment of moms. So make sure you go back, rewatch this, because I'm sure you can get everything, not all the good nuggets that we dropped today. So you have to go back, press rewind, and hit play again and listen to it again. But as always, guys, take care of yourselves. Remember, you can have it all just on your own terms and your own time. Okay? See you again here next Thursday at 1 o'clock as I bring you another real woman talking about real change and getting real. All right, guys. See you then. Bye.